Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be doing a stupidly big book haul for August. You might be getting sick of me introducing these videos as being like the biggest book hauls, but good God, I think I have about 20 books to haul for August and I'm not entirely sure how it happened. Let's just get on into the haul because I seriously have a very large number of books to share with you today. I don't plan on taking any responsibility for the number of books I acquired in August because denial is everything. I actually went to a secondhand book fair and I got about like 13 books from there, so the majority of these bookish purchases are because there was an abundance of cheap books that I got my hands on, which makes it slightly less terrifying than it otherwise would be. Otherwise, I do have an ARC, it's just one? Is it just one? And a couple of books that I got because of the Melbourne Writers Festival that was on at the start of this month, and I think there's a couple from boxes and stuff, but let's just get on into it and have a look at what I've actually got. So let's start with a book that I don't actually have with me, and that's an ebook that I got. It's actually an Egalley. I got approved for an ARC, which is really exciting, and that, I can't remember the title, it's Kingdom of Sea and Stone by Mara Rutherford, is that I can't, if I've got the name wrong then I do apologise, but this is the sequel to Crown of Coral and Pearl, which I read this year. It was something I got at Christmas last year and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite a unique story and it just had like a really enjoyable romance in particular, as well as a good sort of quest vibe going on. So I was really keen to read the sequel and I was toying with myself to actually go out and pre-order a copy of book 2 for a while, and I resisted because I had already acquired a large number of books, as you're about to see. The HarperCollins, who have published this, so thank you to HarperCollins for approving me for an Egalley of this. I'm really looking forward to picking it up. It'll be the next ebook that I read. I'm currently still making my way through Memory of Souls, which is a chunky book, but I am really excited to see where this series goes. I have no idea if this is going to be the last one in this series, but if you haven't read it yet then you absolutely should. It's such an interesting story about twins and them living in this community that's not allowed to set on land, and one of them gets selected to be the bride to the crown prince, and there is so much drama. But that's the ebook that I've got. Still no audiobooks. This is my last month audiobook free to try and help me catch up on things. Has it worked? Questionable, I don't know. Let's just move on to the physical books. So the first one I'm going to show you is actually a trilogy. You may question my life choices as to why I decided to pick these up, but it is the Josephine Bonaparte trilogy. I have no idea if that's the official name for it, but they have different coloured spines, which I have been really enjoying. So the first one is called The Many Lives and Secret Sorrows of Josephine Bonaparte. So these are, I think they're styled as a sort of memoir, and the three of them just go through her life explaining the history. I actually know very little about Napoleon. Napoleon is history that I have somehow never touched upon. I've never read anything about it. I've never watched anything about it. It's something completely new to me. And this, I got all of them for $4. Not 4 each, all 3 of them cost me $4. So I thought, you know what the heck, why would I not pick them up for $4? Because I think it could be interesting. Whether it's accurate, I don't know. Never heard anyone talking about them, but I thought they looked kind of cool, and I do love me some history, so I'm actually pretty excited for these. So let's see what happens when I pull the first one out of my TBR jar, and whether that happens anytime soon or not. The next book I have to show you is actually the third book in a series, and that is Witch Wraith, which is part of the third book in the Dark Legacy of Shannara by Terry Brooks. You may or may not be familiar with Terry Brooks as an author. He wrote the Shannara Chronicles, which I think was made into a TV series. It's actually a relatively popular high fantasy story, and it's really good. I've only read book 1 in this series, and these are not the most common covers for it, so I saw this at the secondhand book fair that I went to, and picked it up because it's been in really good nick and it matches book 1 and 2, which I have in these editions, so I was thrilled about that. I believe this is just a trilogy, so I'll be it's one of the books that I'll be continuing on with the series when it gets pulled out of the jar, because I really loved book 1, so I'm anticipating that this series will only get better. The scale of the story is just epic in proportions. It's got such interesting characters and fantastical races that it's just really fun to read, and I feel like it's really underrated. I mean, it's well rated, but I don't hear very many people talking about it. The next book I have to show you is one that I bought because of the Melbourne Writers Festival. Basically, I watched about somewhere between 4 and 6 talks. It was all streamed online this year. I don't live in Victoria, but I was able to access it, so that was really lovely. And I then went to the local bookstore and I just had a look on the shelves and I bought 3 books that had been talked about at the festival as a sort of treat for myself. And so one of the ones that I walked away with was The Last Migration by Charlotte I can't speak, by Charlotte McConaughey. So this one has a really interesting premise. I actually didn't listen to a panel about this, but I had this one on my radar anyway. So this is an Australian author, and it's got something to do with a woman who's going to the end of the earth, to the Arctic, to have a look at some birds on their final migration to Antarctica. But I think there's like a whole lot of personal history this is actually revolving around rather than the science. I don't know why she's in the water in the cover. I'm very intrigued. I think this will be quite a gripping tale. It's certainly been promoted quite well. It's been blurbed by Anna Funder for starters, and if you don't know who Anna Funder is, then that's fine. If you do know, then you'll know that that's pretty big high praise. Yes, that's a sentence. I would love to have Anna Funder say that my books are great. So yeah, I'm very curious what this is going to be like. Obviously, it's not a very big book either, so fingers crossed it lives up to expectations. The next book I got was another one from the fair, and it was one that I was a little bit hesitant to pick up, and then decided that for the little amount of money they were asking for it, I would. And that's Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. Now, this came out several years ago, and loads of people were excited about it. Obviously, Veronica Roth being the author of the Divergent series, which is wildly popular, but I personally wasn't sure. I didn't love at all. In fact, I hated how Divergent ended, and the movies really put a sour taste, I think, in a lot of people's mouths. And then I think there may have been some debate about something in this book. If you know what I'm talking about, then let me know in the comments down below to remind me. But I thought because it was cheap, I would maybe just have a little look and see if I enjoy it. This is something I'll be going into skeptically, yeah, to see if it's any good. But yeah, I don't know. I actually don't have high expectations of this, but I'm intrigued, and I see it around bookstores all the time, and there's a little part of me that's definitely excited to finally own a copy of it. So who knows? Moving on with other books from the book fair, I have American War by Omar El Akkad. Now, this one sounds incredible. This caught my eye about 5 times before I picked it up out of the little stack, because I was like, I'm sure I've heard of it, and I was thinking maybe I'm just getting confused with American Gods. But no, this is a dystopian, and I don't think it's all that old. Yeah, 2017, so it's just 3 years old. So it's dystopian, it's set in 2074, and it's about the Second American Civil War. There's a devastating plague, so there's a lot of things that are a little bit like topical. Someone on Instagram just today was telling me that they were actually had to put this down because it was a little bit too hard hitting at the moment, which is fair. So, but I'm really looking forward to this. I do love dystopian novels, especially, I don't know why, but I especially love ones that look at America in like 50 years time in a almost realistic situation. I find those quite enjoyable because you just think, but what if? So I'm looking forward to reading this. This definitely has some great This definitely has some great ratings, so fingers crossed that this is just amazing, and it's not a very big book to read either, so I'm sure it'll be a quick read when I get to it. Then I managed to pick up a copy of one of my all-time favourite books, which I have never owned up until now, and that is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is the cover that I absolutely love as well. I borrowed this from the library on a whim many, many moons ago, and I loved it. It is one of my favourite thrillers of all time, only beaten by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. It is just a harrowing sounds a bit serious, but it's a plot twist I just could not work out for the life of me until you get to the end and you're like, God damn, who knew? Who saw that coming? Nobody saw that coming. So I'm really excited to finally have a copy so that I can maybe reread it one day, but mostly just so I can take pretty pictures of it and talk about it every now and again, because I just loved this book so much. If you haven't heard of Diane Setterfield, then you definitely should, although you may have seen me talk about her latest book, Once Upon a River, which I hauled a couple months ago. So if you haven't read this, make sure you read it. So the next 2 books came in the July edition of the No Shelf Control book box, which I think most people will have received and unboxed by now. And those books are The Spellcaster's Weapon and The Mark of Fallen Flame by Brittany Matson. These are obviously part of the same series, the little one being a prequel. So this is an indie author. So No Shelf Control always focuses on indie authors and getting their books out there. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've heard a lot of good things about it so far, but obviously I'll be waiting to pull this one out of my TBR jar when it comes to when I'll actually be reading this. But yes, I will more than likely just binge both of them together because the prequel is so small. The next 2 books are the remaining 2 books that I got because of the Melbourne Writers Festival. So the first one is Women and Leadership by Julia Gillard and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Julia Gillard being a former Prime Minister of Australia, so I was interested in this book, and her speech, her talk about it on the Melbourne Writers Festival was just so interesting and inspiring, talking about, I guess, talking about sexism in the 21st century, and it was just really refreshing to have someone sort of sit up and go, well, hey, no, this isn't done in the past, and you can't just say that everything's fair, and even now there's actually a lot of things that women still face and deal with on a day-to-day basis. And obviously being a woman, that very much so resonated with me when someone's talking about their experience, and you can kind of sit there and go, yeah, damn, there's still so much that is annoying and favouring men, unfortunately. So I am really excited to read this. Julia and Ngozi have interviewed a slew of other female leaders such as Jacinda Ardern, Hillary Clinton, Theresa May, and several more about their experience in power. So I'm honestly so excited to read this, and I can't wait to see like find out all the little life lessons and just, I don't know, inspiring things that I'm sure are going to be within these pages. So the other book from the Melbourne Writers Festival that I got was Kevin Kwan's latest book, which is Sex and Vanity. If you've watched my TBR video for September, you'll know that I picked this one out, so I'm actually going to be reading this in, is it September next month? I feel like we're already in September, but no, this is on my September TBR, so I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's just going to be a really good read, and I like the topic that Kwan is dealing with in this story, with the issue of being raised in a mixed race household and how you get not necessarily a clash of cultures, but a confusion of cultures in the way that the child was raised, depending on how the parenting goes. And I really resonated with that in an unexpected way, seeing as I've grown up in Australia, but my parents are British, so there's been an interesting sort of bit of confusion for me with finding my way in an Australian world, but having British ideals unexpectedly is not quite as smooth as you might think. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, because I think on a lesser scale I'm going to actually relate to this main character with the issues that she's dealing with. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. Going back to the book fair, one book I picked up, which I'm probably going to kick myself for getting, was Replica by Lauren Oliver. Now, if you're familiar with this book, you'll know that you can read this both ways. I think this was such a thing a little while ago, having, no, what was it? It was Stephanie Meyer's Life and Death, when she wrote it from the gender swap perspective. But anyway, I have a love-hate relationship with Lauren Oliver. I absolutely love her writing, hate the way she ends books. It took me many years to forgive her for the way the Delirium trilogy or quartet ended. I was very upset with that, and even Before I Fall, she always leaves it open-ended, and I don't like that. I want to know what happened. I don't want to go through all of this emotional trauma to not have a conclusive ending. So I saw this one and I nearly left it, and then I thought, no, you know what, if I'm ever gonna give this a go, I want to get it for cheap. So I picked up a copy, and I'm going to be really curious to see what I find of it. This is obviously going to be one story told from two perspectives. So we have Lyra and Gemma, and so we'll go through the same story twice, but looking at it from different angles, and I think it's going to be really interesting to do that, but I'm really nervous I'm going to get to the end of both of the stories and just be let down by an open ending, but we'll see. We will see. The last book that I got at that book fair was Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. Now, this is a book I've been meaning to pick up for ages. It's obviously a retelling of The Wizard of Oz. It's been wildly popular for the last 1,000,000 years, it feels like, or whenever it came out. So I just never have. I've just never picked this one up. I've never got it off a wish list. I don't know why, and I saw it there and I thought, obviously I have to get this. I think the size of the book I've got is going to cause me problems with buying sequels and getting a matching series, but I guess that's only if I like the book anyway. So I'm curious what I'm going to make that. I'm a big retellings fan, but I've never read a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, so I can't wait to see what this one is like. I told a lie. There was one more book I got from the fair, but it was one that I've already read, and that's The Girl on the Train. I actually managed to get hardback, which is really exciting. I don't think it's particularly... it's not totally boring, but it's not particularly thrilling without the cover on. This is a little bit of a battered copy. The edges are a bit average, but I love this story. I really enjoyed this. I don't want to watch the film, but I loved the book. Again, I am honestly a bit of a diehard when it comes to thrillers, which is surprising, but I think that this is such a brilliant, harrowing thriller, so I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to actually get my hands on a copy of it so that I could, yeah, take pictures and talk about it, because I love collecting books. So the next two books are part of a series, and they're actually done by an Australian author who I've got to know over on Instagram, repping with her on a few different companies, which has been lovely, and her second book was just released, and that's Chloe Hodge. So the first book is Vengeance Blooms, and the second book is Retribution Dies. Now, these hardbacks you can currently only get through her website, and she does a bit of a package deal, which is lovely if she's got any left. Otherwise you can get it from any good bookstore, but these are so beautiful. Like, I am actually in love with the covers of these books and so excited that I've got them. I've also got these signed by Chloe, which is really sweet, and I can't wait to read them. So a lot of people have read these that I talk to on Instagram who are absolutely loving them and say that they're incredible. And again, I'm so thrilled to have these editions. I think they're gorgeous. So I couldn't say no to supporting Chloe and buying a copy of them, but I am genuinely just so excited to dive into this fantasy series. So the blurb, if you're interested, is orphaned and alone, Ashley Kandaris has just one goal in life: to avenge the death of her parents. But when darkness descends on the land, she discovers her motives are linked to a much larger quest. To protect the world from elimination, she must find the next guardians of the Grove, Everosia's inner sanctum and gateway to other dimensions. As shadows disperse and the forces of evil mount, Ashley travels through water and wood, sewer and summit to reach the chosen. Will her training lead to victory, or will the weight of unraveling secrets lead to her ruin? So yeah, very much so looking forward to these. That brings me to my final book. I'm very excited to share this with you because I got it only the other day and I didn't think I was going to get it. Maybe a month ago I emailed Pam McMillan asking if I might be so blessed as to have a review copy of Christopher Paolini's new book, and I didn't hear anything from them. And I thought, never mind, it was worth a shot. I'm sure I was far too late on that request. But I had the most enormous package turn up the other day, earlier this week, and I thought, what have they sent me? I can't remember what I've asked for. I was like, I don't think I've asked for anything because it really was a long time ago. But lo and behold, Christopher Paolini's new book, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, arrived on my doorstep. But are you ready for this? I'm going to turn it sideways. Hold your breath. You're not ready for the size of this beast. Look at that. Look how big this book is. It is like half the size of my head. See? It's massive. It's massive. This book is huge. Can you believe how big this book is? Are you appreciating? Look how I'm trying to make this a scale for you. This book is bloody huge. So this one has obviously some appendices at the back, and in total comes to just shy of 900 pages. So honestly, this looks like this is 1300 pages long. It looks a lot bigger than it is, but this is also the tall version. So if you're going to get a standard version of this, that would probably be really quite thick. But I'm really looking forward to this. If you're not fangirling with me and you don't recognize the name, Christopher Paolini is the author of Eragon, and this is the first thing that he has written since he finished that series. So I am so excited to read this. I've actually not read the entirety of Eragon myself, but that has not downplayed my excitement for this, especially as it's a sci-fi. So I'm absolutely terrified to pick this one up, but I am probably going to be reading this in October. It comes out in September, but with the TBR I've got set, I just don't think I'm going to have time to crack onto this one as well. So I am definitely going to be looking forward to reading this at the end of this year, and I just know this is going to be epic. I can't wait. I'm so excited. For my own safety, I am not going to attempt to pick up all the books that I have hauled because that is an enormous number of books, but I am so excited to read so many of these, and I'm thrilled to see what my TBR is going to look like in October. I really hope a couple of these might crop up in my selection for it. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, if you've heard of any of these, if you're excited to read any of these. I would love to know. But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.